What's going on, you guys? So right here I have a Radium fuel cell and fuel cell surge tank setup. This is something I've been trying to get my hands on for quite a few years now. It's been a little bit out of my budget range, but I finally kind of saved up enough to pick one up, and this thing is absolutely incredible. So I'm going to take it apart and we're going to show you the ins and outs of this thing and what makes it so awesome and what makes it a really good value for what you actually get when you purchase this. So we're going to start by removing the actual surge tank, taking that apart and showing you how that works. So right here we have the actual surge tank unit that goes in the cell. Now I added a level sender to mine right here because seeing as it's not in exactly a location where I will be able to pull a cap off and look in to check level, I do need a level sender on there, so I did pick up a level sender with this kit. Now normally this kit comes with an 8 AN out and a 6 AN return. I swapped mine over to a 8 AN return because that's what I have plumbed on the vehicle. It's 8 AN ORB, so it was just really easy to swap right over. But a nice thing about this is the actual surge unit itself can hold up to 3 pumps, and then you can have a single lift, or you could probably fit a dual lift in here very easily. And basically this is my lift pump right here, a Whalley 450. And basically what this does, you mount it here. It's got really nice, easy terminal connectors right under there that you can connect this pump to. Then your hose goes into there. So this will basically pump fluid out of the cell and fill up the surge tank unit to keep from sloshing or anything like that, to try and keep those other pumps from running dry. As you can see here, we have a really nice rollover check valve for the vent, because every fuel cell system does need a decent vent. Otherwise, you can build up negative pressure in the actual cell itself, making it harder for the pumps to move fluid out. So you do need a good vent in there. It also keeps some pressure build up on temperature changes and stuff like that. So you basically just want to keep like a 0 pressure differential between atmospheric and internal in the tank, and something you need a nice rollover check valve to do. So it's a really good design, super clean. The machining and everything on this is just awesome. So I'm gonna go ahead, take the tank portion of this off, and I'll show you the setup of how the pumps are actually set up in here, because it's actually really nice. Another cool thing to point out is that each pump is labeled. So you have pump 1, 2, 3, and you can trigger all of those independently. So you don't need to run all 3 pumps at once. You can turn your lift pump on and your number 1 pump on while the car's just running. Say you want number 2 to kick on at X amount of boost, you can have that kick on, and then 3 can be a backup if one fails, or if you need it up top for even more fuel. So you can have them staged, so they're not running consistently making high amperage draws on the circuit, but you can actually stage them to come on, so it takes a little less load off the electrical system and just keeps everything running efficiently, and not getting the fuel hot from having all those pumps running at once all the time. So here's the bottom of the tank portion we just pulled off that actually houses all the pumps in it. You can see down here we have a couple little flap doors to let fuel up in it, right there. So not only will you have your lift pump pumping fuel up into this tank, but you also have ports in the bottom where fuel can come up into it as well, or be siphoned up through. Say this pump can't keep up for whatever reason, you're not going to be limited by this pump. You will also be able to drop fuel up through the bottom of this as well. And then this is the section that actually houses your pumps, or holds your pumps, I should say. So we have 3 pumps mounted on here right now, and they have a nice piece that they all sit into at the bottom right there. You can kind of see how the pumps seat in there. So it keeps them all in place real nice and easy. And it's got a pre-strainer on there as well, so you don't have to worry about the stock fuel pump socks or any of that stuff. And you can see where this lift pump hose runs right into here, where it'll go to that lift pump. So it's a really nice compact unit, and like as I said, the machining on all this stuff is just spot on. Now you can see your return fuel comes in here, and what it does is it actually pumps the return fuel out of this port right here, which goes into your surge pump tank. That way you have your return fuel filling the tank, you have your lift pump filling the tank, and you have your ability to siphon up through the bottom of the tank. So you don't really have to worry about this thing ever running dry. It should get more than enough fuel delivered into it. And then right there you can see these are all your power terminals for each of the pumps. And basically you'll just run your wires to each pump right there, and then, you know, wire them up on top. And they did recently just change this over to these stud style terminals on the top of this. They used to use a bulkhead twist connector, but I think they were having issues with that in the past. And this is just a great solution to that. It's a really nice design, easy, kind of fail proof. So, you know, they actually simplified it a little bit to make it more reliable, and I love that design, honestly. It's a really nice design. Now each of these bolts here do have little O-rings on them. So these all get little O-rings and seals to keep fuel from leaking up through the bolt holes. There we go. So there's a little O-ring on each one of these bolts. You know, it's nice to keep the fuel from leaking up, and you don't need to add any RTV or anything like that. Comes with a really nice gasket to seal all this off as well. But overall, just a awesome unit. Now here we have the Radium cell. Now the differences between this and a fuel cell of like what I have on the Mustang, which is basically just an aluminum racing cell like that, little 10-gallon aluminum cell, is quite a lot actually. The safety standards of this cell right here are way higher than that aluminum one. Now aluminum cells like what I have on that car tend to crack. They don't deal with vibrations very well. And worst of all, they're not a bladdered cell. So if there is a crack in the outer skin of it, you're gonna leak fuel. If you get in an accident and that tank gets hit, there's a good chance it's gonna crack and rupture. So it's a pretty big fire hazard to have a cell like that. And that's why this is something that has been on my list of things to get for years now. All right, so you might be asking yourself, what makes this fuel cell safer than the other ones? So, kind of said, there's a bladder inside of it. So I'm gonna take this lid off here and show you guys exactly what it is inside of there that makes this so much safer. So here's the outer lid here, some nice lightweight aluminum, and then we have our seal right there, and this is the bladder I was talking about right here. So inside of your tank you have a plastic cell bladder. So you have this nice thick plastic cell bladder, SFI approved, and these things can take some solid amount of abuse to them without rupturing, so that's kind of what increases the safety standard of these. Plus it's nice that the whole inside has got the foam in it to keep fuel from sloshing around. And then up under here is your bolt flange, which is bolted on with countersunk screws here. And then this plate under here is threaded, so it makes everything really easy to assemble without having to hold nuts or anything like that in place. So it's a real nice quality part. I like it. This is also the heaviest part of the entire setup, I think, too, just because of how thick the actual outer structure is of this this bladder right here. And then we have the actual cell case, tray, whatever you want to call it, that holds the bladder in place. And a nice thing about this, it does have little slots cut out on it for a top strap, depending on how you mount this. Me personally, I'm just going to build an outer cage with riv nuts that will basically drop in and then bolt down into place. So I'll be doing a video on that when I get around to actually making the cage for it. Now, all said and done, the price of this is not very cheap. So it's kind of on the pricey side. So all these prices I'm going to give you on this are all just like retail. The cell itself is about $760. The fuel cell surge tank, that goes for $750. The level sender is $100, and then the Whalley fuel pumps that I have in here are about $130 a piece. And we have 4 of those. So that's about $2,100. I think it's like $2,130 for the entire setup here. One thing I did overlook that I think is kind of a negative, and I wish they would have included, is a fuel filler, like a flange, a block-off plate, just something. It would have been nice if they at least included a block-off plate with it that I could drill out and weld a neck onto, or even a cap of some sort, but it doesn't come with anything. If you want to get the regular bolt-on cap, that's like another $130. And then Radium also does make prefabricated cages to drop these into and weld in place, but they're like $500, and it's really just 45-degree angle cuts on 1-inch steel welded together. It's literally just a big square box with like $45 worth of material, and then it's got 2 nice straps on it. But I couldn't justify spending $500 on that when I have a welder right here and a bunch of material over there. So I'm just gonna make my own cage. Overall though, it is a very, very nice product. The finish work on it is very good. The fitment is really nice, so everything goes together really smoothly. All the parts and material used on it look like really good quality. Nothing looks like it had any corners cut during the assembly of this or during the design of it. So the changes they made from the connectors here, I really like that, and just overall, I'm just blown away with the quality, and I would definitely recommend it if getting into a racing cell like this. I know the price is a little bit high, but you know what? If this can save your car from burning down in the case of an accident, $2,100 on a fuel cell is well worth the investment. I'm also not sponsored by Radium. Granted, I didn't pay full retail for this. I got it for a little bit cheaper through one of my other distributing sponsors, Tuner Tools. They helped me out with purchasing all this stuff. If you guys want to get something like this, or even just aftermarket parts for your vehicle in general, check out Tuner Tools. They have a wide variety and selection of aftermarket automotive parts. And you know, they've been partnered with me for several years now, and just huge selection of parts and super helpful with anything you guys need, so check them out. Anyways, that's gonna be it for this one. I gotta get back to work on this. I gotta pull this thing out, and it's snowing outside, so that's gonna be fun. Bald ass tires.